Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. In today's episode, we are taking our leadership journey to new heights, quite literally. We are talking about what it looks like to be a leader when traveling, especially in the bustling environments of airports and airplanes. Hence the title, Leadership at 30,000 Feet. I will be sharing a wild personal story of how I displayed leadership on an airplane just last week on my way home from Texas. And Ron has a wild story as well. That's going to leave you scratching your head, no doubt. So don't go anywhere. But first, the meme of the week submitted by Rich Katowski. Leaving an impact is not about the size of your actions, but the depth of your intention. What do you think about that, Ron?
That one is a little self-explanatory, but there's some people who do big things to, I guess, draw attention to themselves. And I think this is talking about, really caring for someone or caring for a cause. That's how I interpret that.
Right.
I think you had a few interpretations, but
off-air interpretations. But no, it's to your point, the intention. The intention has to be there. Otherwise, size doesn't matter. All right, moving right along. Ron, recent data shows that we have picked up quite the list of international listeners.
Yes, and we are very excited about this. Now, this is only one episode. We had listeners from the UK, Germany, the Philippines, Norway, and Canada. And a big shout out to our international listeners, of course. And we also, as always, are just so grateful for all the listeners throughout the states. Kristin is in the what do you call it? The Midwest, I know Portland area.
No, the Northwest.
The Northwest. That's right.
How dare you?
And I represent the Southeast in Charleston, South Carolina. So we're kind of covered in the United States, but it was very exciting to find out we've got these international listeners. So welcome and tell someone about us.
Yeah, pretty cool. And that was just one episode. We have so many others that have other countries represented as well. So
yeah.
Looks like we're moving on up, Ron.
Yep. Kristin, get to that story.
Okay, absolutely. So let me set the stage here first. So latest figures show that there was one unruly passenger incident reported for every 568 flights in 2022, which is up 47% from 2021. And if you think about it, continuing with that same trajectory, 2023 numbers, I wasn't able to grab those up-to-date numbers, but probably ended with approximately 834 unruly passengers, given the other data. So just the other day, of course, when I'm flying, I'm going to give you my scenario, but I'm sure you guys saw this in the news. Ron, I'm sure you saw this as well. Just the other day, a man attempted to pull the emergency exit door mid-flight, and there's dozens more incidents like that. And, I'll share my story here, but just so you guys know, the flight attendants had to pull out duct tape, and then they have these, they're like, you probably know what they're called, Ron. They're like cuffs, but not true cuffs, almost like a zip tie.
Yeah.
I don't know what the technical term is, but they carry those on the airplane for unruly customers or passengers. And we had to, if you watch the video, you can see it's other passengers, male passengers, that are having to hold this man down and pull him away from that emergency exit door. So on my airplane, this is really a story of if you see something, say something, be bold, take charge, and don't accept anything less. So what happened was we are going up to, they call this is Alaska Airlines. And by the way, they don't need any more negative press. I was already nervous flying that a door was going to fall off mid-flight. So we're walking up. My mom and I are traveling home from Texas, and 3 passengers in front of me were going up to the ticket agent who's allowing us to get actually on the aircraft. And we hear her asking this man, something about, is he traveling with young kids? And he has these giant headphones on. And so she said it again, and he rips his headphones off. and he screams, F kids. He didn't say F, he said the full word, F all kids, right? And he just puts his headphones back on and walks right past her. And she goes, sir. And she like covered her mouth like she was like, like, ah, like shocked. Okay. So then I get up to her and she still looks shocked, but she didn't tell anybody up ahead that this man was on the way, and then just completely went right past her. She didn't warn anybody of this passenger's behavior. Right. So that sticks with me. And I'm like, that's unacceptable. Right. So I'm watching this guy. And so we keep going down the tarmac or whatever it's called, the little ramp to get onto the aircraft. And there's a ramp. Okay. Then there's another, I don't know if she's a flight attendant, but she works for the airline, and she's sitting there, and she's across from the aircraft, and he keeps pointing out to her, the ceiling's ugly. And he was pointing out stains on the ceiling and this and that, and just acting crazy. And then he would just randomly, for those that aren't watching, they're listening, he would just randomly start headbanging with his giant headphones on, just like crazy headbanging, just acting completely erratic. And then he's like trying to hit on her. You should come back with me to Alaska. I have a spare room. Just acting nuts, right? Everyone around, I'm watching people's reactions. They're rolling their eyes. They're whispering to each other. There's an off-duty flight attendant behind me, and she whispers to my mom and I, she says, this guy's big trouble. Okay. She's in uniform and everything. So we get up, and I tell the two flight attendants that are on the aircraft when you first board, I said, keep an eye on that guy. And I let them know about what he did to the ticket agent and how he's been acting. And they were like, oh, thank you so much. We'll make sure to keep an eye on him. So then I go down and I notice that he's seated in the emergency exit row at the window.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, hell no, right? Like it's just not going to happen. I'm just not doing this. So luckily there was a flight attendant that's actually positioned at the emergency exit row. And I asked her to come up to my row for a second so I could let her know. And I basically explained, I'm like, this guy, I literally said this. I said, he's acting batshit crazy. And I told her what he had done. And she said immediately, it was so great. She goes, nope. I'm not letting him sit in the emergency row. No, I will take care of this. And I believed her. So long story short, after everyone had been seated, security comes on the plane and asks him to grab his belongings and follow them. What they did is they took him off the plane and asked him a series of questions. I guess they put you through questions to see if you truly are a security threat or a risk. And he did not pass. And so he wasn't able to come back on the airplane. So the entire flight, I had the flight attendants, all of them kept coming to me and offering me drinks. I don't drink, but they were offering me, alcoholic beverages for free. And they actually brought me some chocolates and, things I had never seen before because I don't fly first class. But so I was just being thanked over and over again. And so many people were like, you could have saved everyone on the airplane today. But Ron, what really irks me is that, let's think about this. It took the ticket agent, there's one employee, the off-duty flight attendant, there's two. The third one he was trying to shack up with, 3. And then the 2 flight attendants when I first got on that I notified, 4, 5. The 6th person, it took 6 employees before anyone took it seriously. What's the problem? And I was the only passenger that said anything.
Let me say this first. I remember a time when you just didn't hear about this. Like everyone was cool and chill on a plane.
Yeah.
And you knew it's a federal offense if you act up on a plane, but that's not the case anymore. So, the world's gone crazy. That's my first assessment. But Kristin, truthfully with this guy, from what you're describing, you may have honestly, I may have had to get a new co-host. Let's be real.
Yeah.
That part was supposed to be funny. But
no, I'm serious. I had that pit in my stomach. This is not going to end well.
Yeah, I think something really serious might have happened. So thank God you spoke up. And if you're listening, start to even teach your children that it's okay to speak up. You're not, going to harm anybody by notifying things of that the truth needs to be said. I remember being at a pool one day, and I had to confront some boys for just being way too rough. And my daughters were embarrassed. And I said, sweetheart, things like this just keep happening if nobody says anything.
Right.
And thank God that you did. I really don't know. You never know.
Yeah, you don't. And I just don't understand the inaction that we see today. Why do you think the inaction is so high?
Yeah, I'm going to speculate, but I think people don't want to get involved. That's number one.
Yeah.
Everybody's in their own world. They're stuck on their cell phones. They just don't want to get involved. Let somebody else take care of it. Some people probably just don't care, as long as their life's not in danger. And I think some people really are afraid. They would be afraid to be you and actually be the one that spoke up, afraid this guy might hear or might pick them out. So that's the three things that come to mind. I've heard people say that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our listeners would probably agree. But we've said this before that, leadership doesn't take a vacation. And sometimes we use the word leadership to the point, I guess, some people might get sick of it. So maybe it's just opportunities to lead, opportunities to make a difference. All of that is part of leadership. And we have to keep that in mind even when we travel.
Right. We sure do. Yeah. I know that, we've talked quite a bit about the importance of, switching over from the security piece just to professionalism. We talk a lot about what my mom has shared with me a couple decades ago, that when you look around, everyone that you can see can also see you, and they're watching how you conduct yourself and how you're dressed, right? And how you're presenting yourself. So switching into, like you're saying, leadership skills don't take a vacation. And that also is how you present yourself when you're traveling and how you're conducting yourself, behavior, and how you present yourself physically, right? And so I know that I've run into a few folks that I've known at the airport. This is kind of crazy, but 2 times when I was going to Vegas, I just happened to run into 2 different guys I had dated for a short period of time, different flights, completely different times.
Kristin, wait a minute. I'm starting to see a pattern here. Your ex-boyfriends come up more than anything else on this podcast. I mean, okay,
that's concerning.
Is this the ex-boyfriend? Is this the ex-boyfriend that made the comment we talked about a few episodes back?
No. I haven't talked to him in a while, actually. Maybe.
How many are there, Chris? Let's move on.
These are just brief dating, but it doesn't end nasty. I'm like a low drama person, and I don't pick weirdos. So just happened to run into him. Hey, how's it going? And I'm glad that I wasn't dressed like a schlup in sweatpants with my hair thrown up in a messy knotted bun that so many gals think is appropriate today. So I don't know what about you, Ron? Have you ran into a colleague, a boss? I mean, I've pretty much seen them all.
I'm sure I've ran into some of your ex-boyfriends. I just didn't know them. So,
yeah. Oh, we have them wear identifiers.
I've run into a lot of different people. Now, when you are in law enforcement, like I ran into a federal agent that I knew that I was on the board with, believe it or not, we didn't speak. Neither one of us would take the chance just in case one or the other was working. And it's just kind of an unwritten rule. So we looked at each other, but we didn't speak in that moment. I've run into a lot of people, but I think I told this, but I'm not sure. But I was in a suit one day, and a very important political official got on the plane and was like the governor of South Carolina at one point, but walks down the aisle. It's not the current, not Nikki Haley. It was Mark Sanford.
Okay.
He walks down the aisle, and I'm with my procurement specialist. He's walking right down. Of course, he's been, a politician, but he's not shaking hands. He walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" He shook my hand. He goes on a couple seats back. I guess he didn't want to be seen in first class. So my procurement specialist goes, "Oh my God, I didn't know you knew Mark Sanford." I said, "I don't." She goes, "Why did he shake your hand?" And I just held my tie. I said, "Think about it." She went, "Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness." And it was because he saw me dressed,
Yeah, you had presented yourself nicely.
I guess. He thought I was quote unquote important.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Shoulders back, chin up. Everyone, you can tell when somebody is confident and has it going on.
Yeah, I guess that's the image I was portraying.
Yeah, go Ron.
Just quick, we shouldn't even have to say this, but since the world has gone crazy, we need to think about when we're at the airport and when we're flying. By showing courtesy and considerations, you help create the positive atmosphere. And that was going to translate right when you get on board.
Mm-hmm.
Be pleasant with people. And it's actually teamwork in action inside the plane. And imagine, sometimes I feel sorry for flight attendants. You're operating in this little confined space.
Yeah.
Your butt's in everybody's face, honestly. And, you're trying to serve drinks and stuff, and it takes organization. It takes a lot of different things. So everyone should really work together to help make it a more pleasant experience. In a few minutes, Kristin, we're going to go into some annoying things that people do on a plane, which in addition to my story is going to be pretty funny. So stay with us, folks. You don't want to miss that either.
Yeah.
But we can make a real difference by just doing our part.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny that you said the thing about the butt, because when I was researching for this episode, one of the flight attendants as a collective, number one pet peeves is when passengers poke them in the butt when they're trying to get their attention, like the hip, as they're walking by. Like,
you're not supposed to do that. Okay.
Apparently it's irritating. Who would have thought? But people literally do that. I mean, I can't even fathom, but apparently they do that enough to make it to the top 10 annoyances. But it's like poking them in the butt and then try to hand them garbage when they don't even have a trash bag with them. I couldn't believe what I was reading with half the stuff. But let's just hope people listening aren't doing any of those things. But we'll see. When you go over the annoyances, I think we need to have a tally out.
Yeah, we will.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
All right, Chris, embrace yourself. It's time for my story. If you're driving, you may want to pull over.
Oh, gosh. So
it's going to be hard to tell this. It's a long story, so I'm going to try to shorten it without leaving out important details. Now, I'm going to say a couple things that people might think is offensive, but just let me explain why when I get into it. So it starts off, I'm getting on a plane in Charleston, South Carolina. My ultimate destination was going to be North Dakota by way of Chicago. So I get on the plane, and a very pleasant lady who I recognized as a talker. I always know when I get a talker. They start immediately.
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay with talking, but I usually had work to do when I was, especially this, I was leading an audit. But okay, so this guy gets on, he's got aviators on, long hair, and he literally is barely able to walk down the aisle, and he flops in his seat. He's looking, he's got the paper out in his hand, the ticket, and he's looking, and he just flops in the seat.
Oh my
So
gosh.
It just got my attention. I was just kind of watching him, nothing major. So the lady is talking, and in the process, but everything goes okay. We end up taking off, and we get this weather warning in Chicago. We get diverted to, I think it was either Memphis, Nashville. It was Nashville on the tarmac. So we're waiting because O'Hara's got, thunderstorms. So we're sitting there and time keeps passing. Well, the lady next to me that's a talker is telling me all about this big vacation. She and her husband are going on out of Juneau, Alaska, this big cruise, or he was in Juneau waiting. He had taken the nephew and niece. They didn't have any children. So he went a couple days early. So they're kind of like touring parts of Alaska. So she's going to meet them. Then they're going to get on the boat and leave. So we're sitting there on the tarmac. Everybody's getting tired. And all of a sudden, I see people looking really strange when they're coming down the aisle. I look. The aviator guy's face is in the seat.
That's the one that flopped into his seat?
Yeah, he flopped in his seat.
Yeah.
And he's face down. So I just peek around, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, whoa. And his pants are either not buttoned or they're baggy, but you could see the butt crack. Okay, I'm just being honest here. So we keep going, a little bit of time passes, and I saw some more weird looks. I look around again. His pants have come down.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
in whitey tighties, face first in the seat. I'm on a tarmac. We've been there like an hour and a half at this point, 2 hours maybe. And I'm trying to monitor time on my phone with her connecting flight in Chicago, the talker. In this process, there's 3 women came up. They were very nice. They had T-shirts on. They were going to a pride parade or something. So they're all traveling together. They're really, just talking to everybody, having a good time, even though it was a bad situation. So at some point, over 2 hours goes into this. I've got aviator guy in his underwear with his butt sticking up. Occasionally people come down the aisle. They do a double take and, they're kind of flabbergasted. So the flight attendant's sitting in the back. So I thought, this is not going to end well. Like, this is not good. And then about that time, I look at my time and I have to tell this lady, I said, I'm sorry, but you're not going to make that flight.
Oh, man.
And I said it with as much empathy as I could. She looks, she goes, are you sure? And I'm showing her everything. And I'm not kidding, she bursts out crying. Oh. I mean, like she's at a funeral.
Wow.
She's laying on my shoulder. I'm dressed nice. I've got a white shirt on. And I mean, my shoulder's getting wet.
Oh, wow.
Then the 3 lesbians coming to go to the conference, they're leaned over me trying to console her. So I'm surrounded. I'm in a cocoon. I've got crying.
Circus.
Yeah. So then all of a sudden, somebody tells the flight attendant that aviator guy's in his underwear and his butt sticking out in the aisle. She comes up and I see it all happening and she looks angry. So I tell the lady that's crying on me to hold, I had something like a book. I don't know. I said, hold this, please. I said, I need to make sure nothing happens because I thought he's going to wake up swinging. He's obviously have been drinking all night. That's my perception.
Right.
She grabs him, I'm not making this up, by the ear and is pulling his pants up. So I just stand up, basically making sure that nothing bad happens. So he starts pulling the other side. She's got him by the ear. She pulls his pants up. She takes him to the back of the plane where there is, there's 2 seats next to the bathroom. She puts him there. So at this point, I'm serious, Kristin. I am like, I'm pretty stressed out. We've been on this tarmac like 2.5 hours, 2:45. My shoulder's wet. I'm trying to console this woman. Like it was chaos. And when we finally got there, she really did have to go to the ticket counter and buy a ticket and head back. And she told me this whatever this cruise was, or like 12 days or whatever it is, that she had paid $10,000 or $12,000 each.
Oh my gosh.
Like it was a very expensive cruise. And so, all of that took place on a flight. And I have tons of other stories. I've told Kristin a couple.
Oh my
but
goodness.
That one was stressful. Now, we tie this to leadership. The only leadership I exhibited is that I did try to console this woman. I helped her with time. And then I did stand up and I would have done something with aviator guy. I'd give him a wedgie or something.
Yeah.
I would have done something. So he's laying in the back. Last thing, I forgot about this. He ends up laying down again. And I was going to the restroom. This is like 2 hours, 45 minutes on the tarmac.
Oh my God.
His pants are seriously starting to come down again. He's laying face down on these 2 seats. And I wanted to pants him so bad. I was so bored. I was tired. He caused me so much. Oh my
goodness.
I really wanted to just pants him and go into the restroom.
What a nightmare.
Pretend it never happened.
So they didn't kick him off, huh?
They did not. Back in those days, I don't.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I don't ever. You know how much I've flown, Kristin. I don't think I've ever seen anybody get kicked off a plane ever.
Well, I haven't either, but I've definitely heard of friends of mine that have drank too much at the airport, type of thing. Too many Bloody Marys at the airport bar, and then they're not able to get on. So I think maybe the tolerance has gone lower and lower, which is good since we're seeing the crazies uptick higher and higher. Yeah. So, wow, that is some story. You're pretty much a saint to you. Wow. That's a lot of estrogen all around you.
I wouldn't call myself a saint. I was trying to survive, actually.
Oh my goodness.
But no, I was trying to, I felt bad for her. I mean, she lost all that money. She's flying.
It's not just a flight. It's losing out on the whole cruise.
And by the way, Kristin, she gave me all the details, the excursions, everything they're going to do.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it made it worse.
What a nightmare.
It made it worse.
Oh, I'm sure it did. Well, that is a crazy story. I think to just do a positive spin on this, I'll just let you guys know, and you, Ron, I don't know if you even know this. One of my best friends, we were on our way home from Dallas, actually. So it was a Dallas to Portland flight. This is in 2015. And my friend and I had just gone, one of my best friends lives in Oklahoma. So we were hanging out with her. So my friend had the window, I took the middle, and this guy had the aisle. And long story short, he couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work, so he couldn't watch whatever movie he was attempting to watch. So he turned and just started talking to us. They are now married. So it's really cool because they were both single. And as we were talking and getting to know each other, I'm like, these two have so much in common. So when the other would go to the bathroom, I'd be like, do you realize how much in common you guys have? And so a few years later, they are married. They have a baby now, and pretty awesome. And I was
Kristin, the matchmaker at 30,000 feet.
I know, right? Matchmaking at 30,000 feet. Yeah. So that's the only one of my attempts at matchmaking that's actually been successful. But that was pretty awesome. And I've made so many lifelong friends that I've met that just happen to be sitting next to me on the airplane. I'm not a chatty one, so I don't just start talking. But if someone starts talking to me, then I will engage. And depending on if I find them interesting, I will continue to engage or pop on the headphones, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have probably at least a half dozen that I'm still friends with today that I've met on the airplane. But it's all about how you present yourself. And, really getting back to, speaking of empathy, right? You showed quite a bit of empathy in your story. And leaders must demonstrate empathy, patience, and understanding. And traveling, as we all know, can be unpredictable with delays, cancellations. We just talked about that heavily. I've shared in previous episodes that I literally forgot my purse that had my wallet with my ID and passport, everything I needed to get on the plane. I didn't throw a fit. I didn't try to blame anyone but myself. Went into action mode, was able to get my dad to bring it to me in time, right? So we are going to experience things like that. And a leader must remain calm and composed and set a positive example for those around them. And I tell you what, I was able to get through that security line by going through, I shared this as well, by going through the employee line. Because one, I conducted myself professionally. Two, I looked professional, right? I didn't look like a schlub.
It's going to do it.
Right? So I think it's just, we all need to be mindful of this.
Kristin, we could go on. And I've got so many, but I'm going to be extremely short. But I had a soldier who had gotten apparently an IED blown up. So he had some problems, cognitive problems. So he ends up panicking because we're about to miss our flight. So I'm trying to get him calmed down. He's a young guy. I'm trying to get him calmed down. And I said, we're going to have to run. And we're running. I kid you not. He's running behind me going, all clear, all clear. And I get in there. I flew so much there for a while that I knew the people at the desk for American Airlines. So this lady recognized me. We start chatting as we always did. So he's not causing a problem, but he's panicking. We missed our flight. I missed the most important part. They closed the gate. We missed our flight.
No.
So he's in panic mode. So I could not believe this happened, but she said, he apparently likes you. Will you help? So I kind of am keeping him like, don't worry, we're going to DC. I'm going to make sure you get there. I got you, man. I'm telling him this.
Yeah.
So at some point he says he wants to have a drink, and I was thinking it's a bad idea, but I'm not, I'm not his chaperone. So he goes and has a couple of drinks. Next thing I know, true story, over the airlines, it goes, Ron, Ward, please come up to the gate.
Oh no.
So the lady knew me and she only knew me as Ron. She looked up my name. Anyway, he had started to get like worried again and all that. And they say, could you help us take care of him?
Oh my
So
gosh.
anyway, I couldn't believe they called my name out. I thought, man, if I was working undercover or something, imagine that.
Yeah.
So I didn't really say anything because they were so nice, but I really did want to say,
Right.
don't ever call my name out on there again.
Yeah.
But there were some more funny things happen on the plane when we got on, but I'm not going to go into that. But I did get him to security because he didn't have anybody picking him up. And I didn't have a car, and I had a meeting the next morning. So, but that was crazy.
Wow.
Be ready, people. Be ready.
Wow. The stink really attaches to you, doesn't it?
We could spend 5 podcasts with my flight stories. My daughter was with me on one of the crazy ones, but I got to move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about we do a podcast sometimes called Ron's Flight Stories or something like that?
Yeah, I'd say so. I say we have enough material. Or you do alone.
Kristin, just because there's several of these, let's alternate. I'll do 20, you do 9, that way. But we looked up just some unprofessional things that people do on planes. And if you do this, stop. But if you don't, just laugh with us and enjoy. But if you fly a lot, you've probably seen every one of these. So
wait, I'm going to add something. And if you or I are guilty of it, we have to admit it here live.
Kristin, I don't remember agreeing to that.
That's what keeps us real, right? Keeps us humble.
I've probably done all these. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Overhead bin abuse. I would like to note that I use the example in my body language of signaling of someone on an airplane that signaled me to get their luggage. So there you go. I was hoping. But anyway, you arrive at the gate on time. You board in an orderly fashion. Everything is cool. You're allotted your overhead bin space for you to nicely fold your coat, your new fedora. That probably came from Kristin right there. But anyway. Then
basically somebody arrives and takes it all over.
Yes. And they slam it. They do everything to this point. I don't know how they survived, but I did get on and one was duct taped. And oh my gosh. I knew that was a bad sign. But anyway, you're up, Kristin.
Do you remember
I've not abused the overhead bin.
I don't eat. Here's the thing. You know what I've abused underneath the seat in front of me? That's for sure. I don't put anything in my overhead bin. I stick it all in the seat in front of me. But
I literally do the same thing. But
you?
I will tell you, I should say this. Our listeners may never listen again. But when I get on the plane, I consider myself the leader of the whole plane. I'm just telling you.
Good
so
to
I'm
know.
helping people with overhead bins. I'm helping with whatever they need. I'm talking to people. If someone gets confused, I do. I walk on and go, I'm the leader of the plane.
And so that's why the stink sticks to you.
I'm joking about that, folks. I promise I'm joking. I'm always ready to respond.
Opposite. No, I think you're a helpful guy. I'm quite I kind of do my own thing and have that, like, when spoken to, I will.
I grab the mic when I get on and go, your leader has arrived. Everyone, please.
Oh, my goodness.
Go ahead.
All right. So number 19, this one's pretty nitpicky in my opinion, but taking a long time to choose a movie. So like, for instance, I fly Alaska a lot. So on Alaska, you have those free movies to choose from. Apparently, this is a collective, a large amount of people that find this irritating, that if you're sitting next to somebody and you've chosen the same flick to watch, that the person next to you is, maybe they chose it after you or before you, and basically you're watching the same thing, but it's all getting ruined because you're seeing what's happening before you've even gotten to that point. So,
you know what? I read that one. I have no sympathy. Like, you were late to draw. What, you want me to pause?
I know, exactly. Yeah. And it's like apparently the endless scrolling, but I think that one's a little much, a little extra.
I'd like to look up and go, he dies at the end. But anyway.
Yeah.
This one, the reason I almost started laughing when you were reading the other one, this is compulsive leg shaking. Uh-huh. And I've not had compulsive leg shaking, but I have had people have some weird things that they were doing, like while they were nervous. Like we went through turbulence and I had somebody pulling their hair, just kept pulling on their hair as a female, and she was all nervous.
Wow.
And you know what? I do think I have empathy because I got her calmed down. I told Kristin before, we had someone coming to a bachelorette party, and she asked if she could hold my arm. I'm such a nice guy. I said, go ahead. And
was she nervous to fly, or was that her last hurrah, or an attempt at her last hurrah?
This one, like, we had to make another circle and everything. There was high winds, and they made enough. Well, I'll go with yours. Let me believe what I want.
You never know. Goodness.
No, there's some habits, and you have to watch those nervous habits, and people don't realize it, but when they do get nervous, that's when they tend to come out.
Right, right.
So anyway, we've talked a lot about psychological aspects of things. So try to keep your cool under pressure.
Yeah, the leg shaking. All right. boarding before your group number is called. I'm going to out myself. So I've done this, but here's the deal. It's like if I'm B, I'll wait till all the A's have gone, and then I will just put myself in line and I'll be the first B.
You know,
Do you
Kristin,
think less of me?
time and time again, our personalities come out. I'm empathy, like I'm the protagonist, you're the antagonist in this drama, this ongoing drama. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So you do think less of me now?
No, I don't.
I was like,
I
yeah,
like
done
people
that
that make
one.
things fun.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I dread to touch on this one, but it's very true. Babies crying, and I've had my share of that as well.
Yeah.
So it is annoying, but I feel so sorry for the poor mother who's doing everything, and then you get these people who are being judgy, but some people have to fly with their kid. It is what it is. It's life, so chill out.
Yeah.
So there you go. Enough of that.
Yeah, and I'll just touch on that one because my son and I still have PTSD from one. It wasn't a baby though. It was like a 4-year-old, and it was that you could tell the parents weren't on the same page, and they had a baby and a 4-year-old, and they were the row behind us. And the 4-year-old was the one freaking out the entire flight home from Florida. And the dad kept trying to help. The mom's holding the baby. She wouldn't let the dad help. It was insane. And so that one, I actually got really ticked. It wasn't, and I didn't say anything, but I wasn't upset with the kid. It was like the parents, the mom was just being completely, if it was me, I would have been like, I'm so sorry, everybody. Like the people around me, at least acknowledge that we've had to listen to like this literal 6-hour screaming. And, but no acknowledgement at all. The only thing I did was she goes, we're not going to be flying for a while. And I said, probably a good idea. So I did say that. And that was, but
that's different.
It was rough. Yeah. Getting huffy over bathroom visits. Here's the deal. If I always sit in the aisle, and I do that because I don't want people to have to get up for me. If I have to go to the bathroom, I like that control. But when you sit in the aisle or even the middle, you now know that people are going to need to use the restroom. So you need to be aware of that and don't get irritated because you've chosen to sit in that spot there. What do you think about that, Ron? People getting huffy over bathroom
Kristin,
visits.
I'm going to sound like an empathetic jerk. Is that an oxymoron? Number one, I don't mind to get up, but yes, I always book an aisle seat. The older I get, the more I have to pee. So even when I had a staff assistant used to book my travel, she knew to put me in the aisle. But this is the truth. I get in the aisle also because if anything happens, I know that I will spring into action. I'm not saying I'm this super badass, but I've been highly trained and I would trust me over some of these other people. Right. So there's 2 reasons I sit in the aisle. And I never sleep on a plane. I'm always alert, and it is what it is. But it's primarily, before you think I'm Bruce Lee, everybody, it's primarily because I pee a lot. But the other is true. I do know if something goes down, I will respond. You can bank on it. Valid
concerns. And for me, I just don't want my shirt ripped off like on that one Alaska flight. Did you see that the one that was sitting in the window and the whole door fell off? The kid, it was like a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
It ripped his shirt off. Can you even imagine?
Wow.
Anyhow, okay, so we're on the same page with the bathroom.
All right. So, you're up. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know. I actually got off track. No, it is your turn. It's your turn.
Yeah, we're gonna have to hurry. Yapping on the cell phone. I've seen people do that even on takeoff or even, when they're about to land. The one thing I've never understood, Kristin, I'll never stand it. Why do people talk so loud? Like they're having a full-blown conversation and you're 3 inches from them. You're sitting right beside of them.
And speakerphone.
I want to
say, it on speaker.
Whoever it is, tell them I said, hey, like if you're listening and you do that, please stop. Go ahead.
Right. No. Sorry. I was like, speakerphone. People do speakerphone. I don't need to hear your whole conversation. I was in a New York airport, JFK, and someone was doing that. And we were just in the airport, just in the terminal area. And one lady goes, we can all hear you, right?
Ooh, that
And
was
I
good.
was like, I know, right? So I just thought, gosh, yeah, we don't need to hear you as loud as you are and the person responding. All right. Scarfing smelly food. Now, this is something, it's kind of like a break room. Like we shouldn't be microwaving fish or anything smelly in a break room. But this is when people basically empty out their whole fridge and bring it on board and it stinks.
Yeah, probably not a good idea to buy tuna, fish, or something at the airport either.
Yeah.
The next one's loud talking. We basically talked about the cell phone, but that applies
Yeah.
to anything. I've literally sat 3 seats back and heard these people's whole life story. They're talking so loud.
Yeah, that's obnoxious. This one, ooh, establishing armrest. Whoever can have the armrest. This is tough because when you're in the middle,
Yeah.
which sometimes I take one for the team if I have a friend or one of my family members that wants to sit in the window and I sit in the middle, and it's like each person thinks they get the armrest. I'm like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I literally just pull it down and go, man, too bad you didn't get an armrest with your flight.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, poaching the empty middle seat. I've seen people do that, but I'll be honest with you, Kristen. I think I posted a picture, or maybe I didn't, but I got lucky 2 flights in a row recently. There was no one beside of me, which made me feel really good.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yes, everything's to be shared. That's what we need to say. Everything's to be shared when you get on a plane. All right, we'll keep going because we're getting, there's a lot of these. We're late on time.
All right. Coughing, sneezing, germ sharing. I'm sure I've caught a few colds from
but think about this.
airplanes.
After COVID, now I had this allergy act up. I'm coming back from, I think, Austin or somewhere. I start sneezing, and you would almost rather fart in today's world. Like I was
it's true.
I was going like, oh my God, I want to just make an announcement like, excuse me, folks, it's not COVID. I have some allergy.
People are staring daggers at you for sure.
I had it happen. Late night flight.
Oh yeah.
Was that you?
No, I don't know, Ron, but this is really annoying though, when especially kids do this, playing video games without turning the sound off. And it's like, one, that's on the parent. Like, let's make sure that not everybody can hear your crap.
I'm going to do a few in a row here, Kristen.
Go
Rolling huge suitcases up the aisle. I don't understand this one. How are they supposed to get there?
Maybe when it bumps in, I don't know. I hold mine to where it doesn't bump anybody when I'm going down. So if somebody's not,
okay.
That's because if you're not mindful, you'll hit everybody on the way down.
Listen, this was, I think, maybe my last flight when some people were going to miss their flight and they were talking, but I wanted to help, but there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do unless they can crawl over seats or something. And but it's when people are trying to disembark before you, but it's tough. I say it's teamwork, but it's more than teamwork on that. There's not much you can do.
Right. Neglecting personal hygiene. You're in like a close proximity. Brush your teeth, put deodorant on, shower.
Yeah.
Don't stink up. People get gas when they're in air, and it's so horrible.
I know.
If you're one of those people, bring something.
I feel terrible.
Take a Ron, now I know never to travel.
No, I always blame it. I always blame it on. I'm gonna go. Can you believe that guy? I'm kidding.
Oh
I'm totally joking.
Gosh! Oh my gosh! My mother-in-law had it one recently, and she's like, and she's so proper. I had to put a scarf over my face and spray perfume on it.
Now I've heard this one a lot, but I don't think I've seen it that much. And I've seen open-toed shoes, but this is bare feet, and it's called feet nudism. There's people that. Bare feet. Maybe I don't look at the feet as much, but
oh my gosh, Ron! Planes, trains, and automobiles. John Candy pulls his socks off. He's massaging his feet. Apparently, that happens all the time.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite.
Hogging the toilet.
Take us home with the next 3. Go ahead.
Ron's a big toilet hogger on the airplane. What are you doing in there? Toilet hoggers.
Sometimes
apparently
I need peace and quiet. I don't know.
Trying to get away from that middle seat arm person. Reclining in the seat. I don't even recline my seat when I travel, but those that do, and they put it pretty much where it's touching your chin, that's obnoxious.
That's on the airlines, but that's happened to me a lot, and it does tick me off. I got to tell you. I did. Oh, one thing I forgot. I did have somebody that was kept hitting it. So I finally turn around and I'm giving this guy this terrible, dirty look. And I look, he's got like a 3-year-old kid. He goes, Junior, whatever the kid's name was, like, don't hit this man's seat anymore. But I was ready to slap the guy. I didn't realize I had a kid behind me. But
well, it's like it took you having to look back, though, right? Shouldn't, like,
yeah,
if I saw my kid do it once, I've been on it. Yeah.
I didn't say, like, it's okay or anything. I just looked at him and turned back around because I was tired of it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, why don't you take us home, Ron?
I'm going to take us home. I use this in training. You also can't panic, and you can't do it as a leader. And I always use this. I say, imagine if the pilot came on and said, this is your pilot speaking. We're going to face some turbulence. I'm not sure we're going to make it through. And I've said this before on the podcast, but everybody would panic. No one wants to see a leader in panic. So keep your cool. Yeah. If the pilot came on and said, this is your pilot speaking, please keep your seatbelts buckled. We're going to face some turbulence. We should be through it in about 15 minutes. They always give you a time, almost always, or it shouldn't last long. And that's to keep that hope. But if you see someone else panicking, step in, help them, be empathetic, but do what Kristin did. Speak up. You don't know. She might have saved lives on that. And if you see the whitey-tighties, I got nothing. I just didn't know what to do. Guys, again, the word leadership. I was talking to someone the other day. They said they get sick of the word leadership, but I said there's always opportunities to lead with your children, with your family, when you're traveling, when you're up in the air. Be that person. Be that go-to person. Respond, react, be proactive, not necessarily reactive when you need to. And things will go a lot better. Set the tone.
Absolutely. I love that. Spot on, Ron.
All right. Be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.